I just want to give you a really quick tour of a few information and resources that can help you to do your job. Some things that my service has produced, and I just want to show you something from a few others. So let's just see, hopefully our internet is going to be connected and will work. I'm going to take you for a tour firstly of the Dovetail website, just very quickly, dovetail.org.au. Whoops, let's get rid of that. If you go onto our website, if you can have it, I mentioned yesterday you can subscribe to our weekly email digest just here, but we've got a whole bunch of other information as well. If you go to open the Good Practice Toolkit, we have developed a series of good practice guides for working with young people around alcohol and other drugs. And these are all freely downloadable here in electronic format, or you can email us and we'll post you hard copies of these as well. So we've got 5 of these guides. Our most recent one is Working with Families and Significant Others. That's not exactly like family therapy. It's working with families where the young person is the client. So how do you manage those dynamics if the young person is your client, particularly if you're working with young people where the family has got significant drug use issues? Because there's not too many resources out there that deal with family inclusive practice where the whole family is drug saturated. We've also got a guide to working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander young people, etc. The others are all a little bit boring. Legal and ethical dimensions of practice is around things like consent and confidentiality, and when do you need to breach confidentiality with a 15-year-old when the risk is getting high, which is obviously really tricky. We've got some online training as well, a guide to youth alcohol and drug services in Queensland, and my favouriteest thing ever was we created Queensland's first guide to drug slang, which is really cool and it's really quite funny. If you hear of someone who's up the Murray Cod and you don't know what that is, it means on the nod, affected by opioids. It's all there, so check it out. Also, you might have noticed, hearing a few presentations from alcohol and drug people, we have a whole language of acronyms in our sector, and all of our sectors have different acronyms. We've got an acronym list as well, an AOD acronym list, to help you interpret some of that stuff. So check all of that out. I also want to show you, so Dovetail is the youth sort of support service, but we've also got an adult equivalent called Insight. InsightQLD.org, and I just want to show you a bit of their stuff. So Insight's done some specific methamphetamine resources and projects as well. So there's a bunch of things that I want to show you here really quickly. Insight offers webinars every Wednesday during like regular semester time. They offer online webinars at 10 o'clock every Wednesday morning. They are also in person at Biala if you want to rock up, but it's easy online just to log in. A lot of teams arrange their team meeting around it and you can watch it as a team. You can type questions to the presenters. The calendar is all available there. It's just come out yesterday or last week. Insight also offer a whole range of training, of free full-day training workshops for workers, and this calendar also came out yesterday, and if you get online right now you can register before it all sells out, because it will sell out. They have workshops on things like motivational interviewing, how to do assessments for alcohol and drug problems, mindfulness for alcohol and other drug problems, a whole range of full-day workshops. Those mostly happen here in Brizzy, but they're also in Townsville and Cairns as well. The induction modules are online courses that if you're a new alcohol and drug worker in Queensland, particularly in Queensland Health, you're expected to go and do those online modules, which are quite comprehensive as well. But if you've got an interest in alcohol and other drugs and in your own practice, you can go and do those courses yourself, which is also all free. I want to show you Meth Check really quickly because this was funded partly under the Action on Ice strategy. The Meth Check resources, there's a whole range of them. So there's an online training package, which is a bit of the content from my presentation yesterday, but just delivered in an online training format. We also developed a psychostimulant early intervention flowchart for emergency departments. So that's a medical flowchart around, you know, what dose of what antipsychotic do you give to someone in an ED, because we know that's quite tricky for hospitals to work out. But we've also developed the Meth Check Ultra Brief Intervention tool, which I'll just click on. So this was developed for any worker to use with a client who's using methamphetamine, and it's a really basic structured brief intervention. It uses all of the techniques of motivational interviewing, so it's a decisional balance. What do you like about using? What don't you like about using? There's a few little suggestions in there. How much money do you spend on meth? Let's calculate that out over a year. It then goes into some goal setting on the second page, and it talks about, you know, yeah, I'm thinking about cutting down or quitting, so what are we going to do? Or no, I'm not thinking about cutting down or quitting, so here's some good harm reduction information that people should get. So that's just a couple of things that we've produced. And I want to show you one more, which is not, we haven't produced it, but it's really cool. It's called Cracks in the Ice. This ice thing's given us so many hilarious like little acronyms and things, isn't it? Cracks in the Ice. Cracks in the Ice was developed by the National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre down in Sydney, I think that's right. But this is they've tried to pull together nationally a whole range of different information on methamphetamine, and this website is suitable for members of the public. You can access treatment through the website if you need to get help, but it's also got information for communities. If you're working in a community, there's a community toolkit. There's also information for schools, there's information for health workers. It's a great resource, and it's only very recently been launched as well. So this is a sort of a national website that we're trying to sort of funnel a lot of methamphetamine information into, so we don't have a million different kind of sites of info. So check out Cracks in the Ice as well. But I'm going to hand over to Eddie Fewings. I've already mentioned he's much funnier and more engaging than me.
I'm going to whiz through this. There's a bit of information in it. Last night I'm still a bit crook, but last night when I was listening to people around yesterday, I sort of went back and rejigged it slightly. I'm hoping that in my delirium I didn't double up on any slide, but we'll see. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge traditional owners. My mother-in-law is a Yuggera elder. She's probably the oldest one alive, 91. She lives up in Cairns with us. Also the elders, past and present, and leaders. And I think, for me, leaders is a big thing. This nation is going through a conversation at the moment around, you know, reconciliation, constitutional, you know, recognition, treaty, sovereignty. So there's a whole lot of things going on, which I think absolutely, very off the mark, impacts on everything that everyone does here. In this room and in any other room that's going on around the country, because I think the history of Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people in this country, this is the consequence of it. So I think first and foremost we need to get that very clear in our heads. I had another slide here acknowledging you folks. I took that out, but I do want to acknowledge the practice wisdom that sits in the room, and I also want to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that are here, and I see me and Rach go back many kilograms ago. And I saw Jason come up to me the other day, and the lad come up and visited Mornington Island, so, you know, we still haven't found your Ray-Bans up there either, brother, that he lost. Eddie Fewings, Substance Use Policy Program, there's only one of me. I also just want to acknowledge Rebecca Lang over there, my comrade in the non-government community control sector. I don't know how many you got, but there's only one of me. So this presentation was about finding the information we need to succeed. I'm going to talk a bit about the AID Our Way project. That finished on June 30 this year. So it's very, very fresh. So the project basically was about building the capacity of frontline staff, and it was again through the ICE initiative in the state government, building the capacity of frontline staff in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community control services to better respond to people and families experiencing problematic ICE use. Just some big, people have already talked about some of this, some of the bigger structures that we all work under in this field, and the Queensland is a Queensland one. Hey, look at what that one. Oh, sorry, see on. Oh, here, I'll try you. Okay. So the demand reduction, supply reduction, harm reduction, very, very key things that we, you know, talk about. What I do want to draw though, in terms of our project, is the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander People's Drug Strategy 2014, 2019. I was part of the development of this one. But I think they're very important about the principles. It's about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ownership of solutions, holistic approaches that are culturally safe, competent and respectful, whole of government effort and partnerships, and resourcing on the basis of need, which is a really big one, because it's what you usually look, our resi rehabs who I'll talk about have been on the same money, you know, forever. And the complexities of the issues that are coming through certainly, you know, need more resourcing. Some of the, I'm glad, the other reason I'm glad Camo got up there earlier. So the national drug, we've got some other activities that I'm involved in and we are involved in, the sector's involved in. So the Cracks in the Ice, they've actually subcontracted the National Drug Research Institute to do an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander resource kit, and I sit on the National Steering Committee of that. That's in it. We're just going through all the ethics approvals to do that. But having said that, the Cracks in the Ice one is quite good, I think. I also provide advice to folks or through the sector, on behalf of the sector, the ANACAD committee, who talks to the Australian government directly about, you know, what happens in this space. Stigma, there's a draft stigma report that the Queensland Mental Health Commission commissioned, but it didn't get the ethics approval to talk specifically about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And so they were very approachable in terms of saying, well, we want one that actually talks about, you know, the stigma that we have. And I think one of the examples I gave was, you know, people see, you try rent a house if you're a Murray, you know, like all the stigma around being a black fella in this country. My wife's she's Aboriginal, but she's very fair. And I've had to send her in every time just to rent a place. And I also sit with Cameron, Rebecca and other commission around the ARD Queensland network. There's a couple of documents they've put out there. You'll be talking about some of this later, Rebecca? Yep. Okay, so I also had some figures up there around Queensland government investment, Australian government investment, but it looked a bit different to the ones that were up yesterday. I thought I'd better just take it out because you know how governments go, they sort of like to, you know, beef up. So I thought, it looked a bit different, so I thought I won't put it in, I'll just mention it because it is a bit different. Which is a safe, because we're actually discussing with them about some follow-on through the ARD Our Way project. And you got to, you know, they got the bungu, we want to keep in good with them. So the project, ARD Our Way project, the two proponents was Quismic and Quake. People are aware who Quake are. There's a peak. Put your hand up if you know who Quake are. Not many. All right, so the Queensland Aboriginal and Health Council is the peak body. Hands up if you know of an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander medical service in Yorktown. Okay, well that's better. So the peak organisation for all those medical services is Quake. So they're a policy and sector development. One of my bosses, Dion, over there, brother, back in another life, was part of that, as well as Leonard. And Quismic, we've got Quismic services are the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community-controlled specialised residential rehabilitation services that are in Queensland. I started 6 years ago in Quake. We had 14. We've got 5 left. So in terms of access, in terms of culturally safe, responsive organisations, you know, we haven't got very many of those left. Other services that are out there, part of my job is to support them, deliver good services as well. And Quinn, so our partners in the project were Quinn and Queensland Health and Insight, the mob that Cameron talked about. But I just pay some due respect to the Quinn mob. I think they're a deadly mob of people. They do really good work. And we've partnered, and we'll go a bit more about what we actually did. So these are the locations of the Quake services around the country. Our member locations. These are the names of my little group, the Quismic members. Gummy Gummy in Rockhampton. We've got the Normanton Recovery and Community Wellbeing Service. Gindaja Treatment over in Yarrie. Quace, they're just around the corner there, and Ferdy's Haven on Palm Island. Now, you would have noticed that was a really nice map, and then I put my little Quismic service and it just looks ugly. but you'll see very clearly where our resi rehab sit in relation to some of those services. Now, just quickly, the milestones for the project. So in March 2015, our services started saying, look, we're starting to get people coming presenting, looking for ice treatment. In April, of course, the task force. July, we launched a position paper after consultations. We then also presented the Queensland Government with a nice investment complementary paper to say, look, you give us 1.8 million, we'll deliver this. In September, we had an ARD conference, an ICE roundtable here in Brizzy. And then in April 2016, the Department of Health said, look, you know, we've got a bit of money. Would you like to put in a submission around your workforce? So if we just go back through the process, there was the centre consultation, and that was the position paper. It basically talked about that it requires a coordinated cross-sectorial response, and I think this is something in terms of your sector is just one part of a whole series of cross activity that needs to happen. Community supported to respond locally. The activity that, you know, has to be generated and driven and supported at a local level. Education and information is very critical. We need to have a competent, confident and connected workforce, and identify and collate and use data smarter. So our investment strategy talked about solutions, and I'll talk a bit about the different platforms around reform, partnership and community a bit later. So when we had our 3-day event down in here, it was a signature event. It was huge, and again, Dion and Lennart were part of that. So what we did first was identify and bring together all our community control services. And I don't know if Natalie's around anyway? Nope. All right, so we also had the Child Protection Peak. We had Shane Duffy from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Services in that group. Then we brought our other people like Kanata, Dovetail, but use government, I put you in the wrong group. But they think they're part of the, you know, part of the crowd. They're wishing for it. And then we brought the government people along to the ICE roundtable, and basically we brought our mob together first in the non-government sector, saying, look, let's have a bit of a yarn about this. Let's talk about some direction we need to have. And then we brought the government in and said, all right, so this is what we think. And we had people like, what that auntie name? The senator, Jackie Lambie. She was there. Look, I tell you, she is exactly like she is inside and outside, you know, like she was there, but she was deadly. She supported it. So the conference outcomes was about commitment to work better together. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander services and communities must have leadership roles in these activities where it impacts on our people. To renew, refocus and harness existing community energy and social capital. We've got a lot of social capital out there that we need to be able to identify and work with. And I think in terms of your business, you know, I would expect that would be something that you would do as well. Identify where that social capital is in your communities. Seek new investment, for service gaps and new initiatives, and to use data smarter. Our data, there's a whole heap of data out there. People are gathering data, but it's all over the place. And there's some Indigenous specific data we want to be able to measure. So the ARD Our Way project had 3 components. So there was a nice workshop, there was contextualised resources. You saw the stuff that Cameron put up. That's just ugly. Like, it had peaks, you know, we sort of thought it looked like come out of, what's that? The Sound of Music. But the content was deadly, you know, so, and we actually tested that with a whole range of our services to say, no, lead on it, just read this, does this make sense to you? And they said, yes, it does make sense. So we ended up just making it look prettier. And we used, if you have a look at our, this stuff here, we just sort of put that stuff on there, just, you know, I don't know, it's the cream and the cherry on top of the cake. But just so that our people, you know, our mob would look at it and not think of the Sound of Music, they'll actually, you know, connect with the design as well. Sorry, brother. Some key elements of the stuff that we did, there was also the dual diagnosis brief intervention. It's a 2-day workshop. We did 2 of those across the state. And we had, Jane was one of our presenters, Sean was the other, and then we did one up in Cairns with Vanessa. look, excellent. It was really deadly stuff, and our mob really really connected with the trainers. And also there was a very good value of having people that were working. They just weren't trainers. They were people in the game, you know. And a lot of our mob are going to, there's an increase of our people going to, and our mob, we vote with our feet. We either like you or we don't like you, you know. So they're getting more people there. The other key element is the stages of change. And I think people that are in the game really need to, you know, be able to understand and work with the people that are at the, you know, wherever they are, have some response to where they are in the cycle of change. There's another Murray version there. You know, the outside circle is community. The little white, you know, you're either looking at grog, you're looking out, you know, and you go through all these. That's our cycle of change. It's the same thing, cooked up a different way. So the workshop sites and participants, we delivered in 23 communities across Queensland. We was in TI, was out at, right out at Charleville, Toowoomba, along the east coast, Mount Isa, and we delivered to 471 Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander community control frontline staff. When the two project workers finished, they was absolutely had it. So yeah, gunning. Yeah, this is where I've done it. Here. Is this moving? Oh, there now. It's having a bit of a hissy fit. Okay. So one of the braver things we did with this is we actually got an external evaluation, because a lot of people do training, they do workshops, and you can do all the you know, the throughput and outcome stuff. But we actually wanted to say, we wanted a third party to say to us, well, what did it actually achieve in terms of impact? But if you have, our own internal evaluations showed us back from the people that participated that there was an 83% increase in knowledge. People were reporting increase in confidence. They reported an increase in ability to access information. And we sort of scored like a 43% on SurveyMonkey return, which is, I think, is about average, you know. But they also said, look, you really actually do need to do some other ways of testing, or, you know, don't just use SurveyMonkey. So the external evaluation, there were some limitations and assumptions due to, now, I said this at the Winter Skill Conference. I don't know if you talk to, if any of you are researchers, but they live in another universe, I tell you. They speak another language. So I've tried to make a bit of sense out of this. Basically, they're saying, look, we could only have a small sample, so that's some of the limitations. But they did say that the project met all the outcomes. The internal evaluation was well designed. Some changes were suggested. We've got that. And this is the weird one. They were 95% sure, confident, that 35% and up to 82% had a positive impact. So I'll say, right, is that a good thing? I hope so. So critical project success factors. It met community need. It was designed and delivered. And Murray haven't got his glasses on. It was delivered by the sector. There was strong relations. We had we used our existing network. Appropriate engagement. Like when you're chasing Murrays, like you got to chase and chase and chase. But if you chase enough, you get the engagement. So we made sure we put a lot of energy into that. The service responded. They came when it was, we did the right, you know, engagement, and they came. Very effective communication. So, you know, we thought this was, there was some value in talking about the critical success factors. So where are we? We said to government, look, give us 1.8 million and we'll do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. They give us money for K and L. So we got the improved tools for frontline workers, and off around that we actually helped support some communities, do some of the stuff, you know, that they wanted to do at a local level. But you can see there's a whole range of other things that we want to do. New and existing priorities. Look, focus, we've got to get back to the prevention side. We're sick of running around at the bottom of the cliff with ambulances and stretchers, and you know, we want to try and get up there and stop that from happening. And it's really around young people at this point. So we asked the 23 communities we went to and the 400, what do you think needs to come next? This is what they were saying to us. Need to support users, families of users and communities, and responses needed for crime and violence. People were very concerned about some of the things that were happening in their families and in communities at that stage. Protection and new and expanded treatment services. Now, the other really good thing about the 471 staff is not only are they frontline workers, they're uncles, their aunts, their nieces, nephews, cousins. So we deliberately were very conscious that some of this information would help people in their settings. Because at that time, ICE wasn't coming through clinic doors. We're starting to hear now that there's a slow trickle starting to come in through our clinics. So giving those people information, knowledge, and it had there was a dual purpose in that. And I think those people in their family settings will have some information and to draw from, knowledge to draw from. All right, we're going to get to the prickly end of this now. So referrals, at the moment, our resi rehabs are getting a very significant increase from through child. So people saying, to get my kids back, I've got to go to rehab. And I think Jane and Nikki did very well in terms of some of the issues that are around that. Our services, like I said, aren't sort of well resourced. They're resourced, but they come with a whole range of issues that they want to address. And usually our workers in our rehabs are following all the bits up. Justice, massive amount of pressure coming from the justice system, and it's through pre-court referrals. Lawyers, solicitors saying, get into rehab now before you go to court. Make it look good. And then they're saying, when they go to court, look, send them to rehab instead of send them to jail. And then if they go to jail, then it's saying, well, let them out early and they'll go to rehab. So there's a huge amount, but these people they come with a whole heap of issues and they don't come with any resources. So these are some of the things that we're sort of working on. There's service organisations, people are out in the, neighbourhood centres, other services that are actually saying, all right, let's try and get you into rehab, justice groups. And then there's the self, and I think some of our services are actually saying, the people that come there for themselves, if you start to get too many, I know a few services now will only have X amount of justice and X amount of time, because it changed the dynamic in the community of the rehab. If I was to suggest something for everyone here, most everyone here is probably very educated, and you've read, you read a whole lot. Read this thing. This is excellent, book, working together, and it gives you a really good basis of information and knowledge and perspective, And because this was written by a whole range of very, very intelligent, qualified Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I suggest you get this book and read it. You can get it online. And dabba-da, that's all, folks.